Greetings, fellow music nerds, and welcome to Season 9 of the Music Makers and Soul Shakers podcast. I am your host, Steve Dawson, coming to you from the Hen House Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. This season, I'll be taking you on a journey down the many rabbit holes in the process of making great music. I'll be speaking to instrumentalists, songwriters, producers, up-and-comers through legendary veterans, and we'll go deep into their history and their process of creating unforgettable music. This podcast continues to be listener-supported. You can help keep the show going with a Patreon subscription, and for as little as a few bucks a month, you'll support the show and get entered into our incredible giveaway that I'll be talking about throughout the season. You can get links to all this at makersandshakerspodcast.com. And if you can't do that, please subscribe for free to the show at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That helps us out greatly as well. Meanwhile, a huge thanks to the main sponsors this season. Please check them out and let them know I sent you. They are Larrivee Guitars, Chase Bliss Pedals, Fab Filter, Odyssey Headphones, Railtown Mastering, Isotope, and the Hen House Hang. We absolutely could not produce this show without them. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's get down to it with another episode of Music Makers and Soul Shakers. Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 179 of Music Makers and Soul Shakers. Steve Dawson coming to you here from Nashville. And today on the show is part one of my conversation with the great Kenny Vuaghan, who is undoubtedly one of my favorite guitar players in Nashville. When I first moved here in 2013, I used to go and see him play. He had a kind of a weekly gig, I guess, at this place called the 12 South Tap Room, which I think it's still there, but they don't have music anymore. And Kenny used to play kind of once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks. I'm not really sure. With Dave Rowe was playing bass, who's passed away now. I can't remember who else was in that trio, but they used to just like rip the craziest stuff. And he had this Strat from the 80s, this Japanese Strat that he just made sound incredible through a Princeton, and he had it kind of cranked in this little pub basically, and he used to jam a gig bag up against the speaker so he didn't grease the place out. And man, he just blew me away. I just loved the way that he attacked the guitar and played really crazy, awesome instrumentals and songs as well. And many of you will know him as the guitar player in Marty Stuart's incredible band called the Fabulous Superlatives. And Kenny has had that gig for about 24 years, and we talk all about that. And lately, I've been going to see him a lot. He plays at a place called Dee's Country Cocktail Lounge here, and also Brown's Diner with his great band called the Kenny Vuaghan Imperial Blues Hour, which is slightly ironic because they are not a blues band. Although they play some blues, but it's more kind of like the Kinks and the Who meet Hendrix and get a little wiggy. And I love going to see them. And if you're in Nashville, they do play pretty regularly here. So definitely check out Dee's or Brown's listings to see if they're playing near you. Kenny's from Denver, but he moved to Nashville sometime in the 80s. Played with Patty Loveless for quite a while. He was in Lucinda Williams's band when she was touring Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. And he's also played with people like Trisha Yearwood, Hal Ketchum, Gretchen Peters, Tim O'Brien, Alan Jackson. He's been all over the place on the music scene here, and is one of my favorite guitar players in town. As I mentioned in the intro, the Big Ol' Contest is coming up at the end of this season, and we've got some incredible prizes to give away. We're giving away a Larrivee guitar. We're giving away Chase Bliss pedals. We are giving away Odyssey headphones. We are doing it up this year. And all you have to do to enter to win all that stuff is support the show with a small monthly contribution through Patreon, and you can do that at makersandshakerspodcast.com. So this is part one of the conversation with Kenny Vuaghan. He was over here for quite a while, and so I'm breaking this up into two parts. The second part will come out 1 week from today. So thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy part one of my conversation with Kenny Vuaghan. Oh, and one last thing before we roll here. You will hear me being off the mic, and that's because Kenny rolled into the studio and we started yapping about fun guitar stuff right off the bat, and I had it on record, but I wasn't sitting down yet. So you hear me talking, but it's way off in the distance. So that remedies itself when I eventually get up and move over to the microphone, but it takes a few minutes, so that's what's happening. Enjoy.
I have a 59 Meteor.
Yeah.
You know, with a spruce top.
Yeah.
I mean, I used it at a session on Sunday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a wonderful sounding instrument.
Yeah.
Have the, what are they called? Tomastic George Benson set on there.
Oh, yeah.
Flat wound,
The
you know.
flats.
I think the 12s probably.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good. It's amazing. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And mine has a truss rod, but I haven't had it adjusted since the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good run.
Yeah, it is. I think George Bradfute worked on it back in the...
Oh, yeah.
When he lived over in East Nashville. Yeah, he's from Memphis. I don't know. I mean, I've known him forever, but he's very...
But he used to be the guy around town that would like have all the cool, crazy vintage shit, right?
He had a lot of cool shit. And I guess most of it was vintage, but it was odd. You know, like Rickenbacker transonic amps with the cabinets. You know, I saw Led Zeppelin's first show in the United States. They opened for Spirit and Vanilla Fudge.
Whoa.
And they...
Was that Colorado?
Yeah, it was at the Auditorium Arena in Denver, Colorado. But they had... That's what Jimi was playing through, those cabinets. But he had a Marshall 100-watt head on the floor. Okay. And John Paul Jones was playing through those, the amps and the cabinets.
Whoa.
Yeah. I think if you look up, there's some footage of them in Denmark before they went to the States playing. Yeah. Before they were... Maybe their record had just come out, or not. Maybe it probably wasn't even out yet. Because when I went to see them, the record had just been released.
Did you have it yet?
I think we got it right before. There was a guy that worked down at the Folklore Center, which was the only place in town where we could get imports. And he was kind of a groovy cat. He wasn't like the folkies that worked there that hated anything that plugged in. Right. He had long hair, and he was hip to all like the shit we were buying, like the Chicago blues records and stuff like that, you know. And he said, "Hey, the Yardbirds' old guitar players got his new band. They're playing, you know." Yeah. So we bought tickets.
That's what he was known as at that point.
Yeah. Well, the record had been out for not very long. Yeah. And we picked it up like a week before. And, I put it on. I was like, wow, I must have been probably 14 or...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, something like that.
That's probably when I got that record when I was 14, but they weren't performing newly in Canada at that point.
Yeah, well, I bought my first guitar in '66. It was a brand new Telly. Okay. And so I was excited that he was playing his Telly. And when I saw him...
He had the Dragon?
Yeah. I only really bought their first 3 albums, but after that I wasn't really interested. And I know that those are great albums, that the ones that came out after the first 3, but mostly I'm with you. I kind of wasn't really as interested in him as I was initially. Yeah. Well, what happened was our promoter in Denver, we had this one rock and roll promoter, and he did a lot of stuff. He was from Chicago, and he worked for the promoter in Chicago, and it was Mob. It was a mob-run organization. So his boss, he moved to Denver to take kind of because he was under their umbrella. So there were no rock and roll promoters in Denver. So he was like, "Yeah, I'll go out there and promote shows." So apparently the story is that the guy in Chicago, his boss, called him and says, that show you got coming up with Spirit and Vanilla Fudge, you're going to have to add this band on." Yeah. And it was like maybe like a week and a half before the show. Wow. Right? And they're called Led Zeppelin, and they're flying into the States, and then their next gig is I don't remember where the next gig was, but they needed this gig for the travel arrangements or something, Yeah. And he's like, "No, I can't do that." And he says, "Oh, you have no choice. You're going to do it. And here's how much you're going to give him." Wow. So. That's old school. Yeah. I love it. And I think they only got like 25 or 30 minutes. And my neighbor he was about my age, he had a Sears, Silvertone Dan Electro. And I was like, "Yeah, that's a kid stuff, man. That's a catalog guitar, And the day after the show, I went, 'Hey, Steve, can I look at your guitar again, man?'"
For a few months.
Yeah, he didn't play it, I was like, "About that guitar of yours, man."
They were kind of considered toy, like shitty guitars.
At that time, yeah. They didn't, they were in my mind until I went to that show. Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. And then Randy California came on next with Spirit, playing a Dan Electro, and I'm like, 2 in one night. Boy, what's going on here, man?
So yeah, you grew up in, is it the Denver area?
Yeah.
Or like right in Denver?
Yeah. Yeah, I there was a really great music scene there, just unbelievably great. It was wonderful. Lots of good jazz players. Yeah. My dad, when the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan, it was
it's the game changer for everyone.
Well, yeah, it must have been my 10th birthday. Yeah, it was my 10th birthday.
Oh my God.
And well, my 10th birthday party was delayed by a week and a half because of weather, and my family always got together, my cousins and my grandma and grandpa, and so we had my birthday party on that Sunday night, and we all, the whole family gathered around the TV, and I was like, oh my God, this is what just happened, So, I started bugging my dad. My dad had a massive jazz record collection with, Macintosh amp, nice turntable, and 2 big JBL speakers. And
was he a musician at all?
No, he was
just
an artist,
a super fan,
visual artist. He'd been in World War II and stationed out of San Diego in the South Pacific. So he would go to the dances and see Buddy Rich's band and Stan Kenton's band and Count Basie's band.
Wow,
where they were playing for the troops down there in the big ballroom in San Diego near the base.
Yeah. So
it was always happening. He said it was full on, packed. And he would see all the cats play. And then when he got out, when the war ended, he went to college and got a job as an artist and started buying records and had a good stereo, And he had a lot of records. I still have most of them. There's some of them disappeared. Oh,
you kept the collection. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah,
right on.
Yeah, I'm really lucky to have it, and because I almost lost it because it was in Colorado and I had to get it. I had to go get it.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Worth the trip.
Oh yeah. Whenever I look at it, it's like, oh wow. But he had some good stuff. Chico Hamilton and some deep stuff.
Were you drawn to the guitar players like Wes Montgomery and Grant Green and that sort of area?
I was, and eventually. But what happened was, he had Tony Mottola records.
Okay.
And he, when I told him I wanted to play guitar, he kind of stonewalled me for why I guitar. Kids' music, that terrible rock and roll you listen to.
Did he hate rock and roll?
He didn't. He let me buy it. It wasn't. Okay. It wasn't. He didn't mind if I listened to it.
Okay.
But he didn't. He'd make fun of it. Yeah. Whatever. Like this kid stuff. But when he really realized I was serious, there was this. Somehow, I don't know where it came from. We had a nylon string used junk folk guitar. Mm-hmm. And I started plunking around on that a little bit, and he
just totally by ear, like you kind of.
Well, my mom knew 3 or 4 chords. I don't know where she learned it, and she would show them to me. And I got a folk music book.
Yeah, you got to have a starting point somewhere. So.
Yeah, and I took a couple of lessons from a guy that showed me some stuff. That his dad had a music store, and he had a rock band that I'd seen on the local TV station. That there was a.
This wasn't Bill Frisell. Bill
Frisell that was
came
later.
Okay.
And so my dad finally, my dad heard me play, and he's like, "I'm going to take you downtown to listen to my friend Johnny. He can really play the guitar." And so it turns out that his friend Johnny was Johnny Smith.
No way.
So he sits me. He would play every night, every Saturday night at Shaner's with the Neil Bridge Trio. And Shaner's is right in the heart of downtown Denver. So we drive down there, and he'd set me right in front of Johnny, about as far away as we are right now.
I love that guy.
Yeah. And this
is
my friend Johnny. Now, I want you to watch him play this guitar. He could really play, And so I got to see, firsthand, that was my first exposure to somebody performing.
Did you realize that he was that guy that was on Stan Getz records and stuff that you'd heard?
Yes, he did. Yes.
So you recognized.
He had the records.
Okay.
Yeah. So he playing for me and stuff, and I was knocked out. I was Johnny's sitting on a stool quietly, playing with the Neil Bridge jazz play.
Yeah.
And one night, it was a funny thing happened. My dad, it's like a Friday. My dad says, "We got to go see Johnny tomorrow night." I said, "Okay, yeah, okay, I'm going." And he kept watching the door. Yeah. We were sitting at the front table. And Shaner's was just a little tiny joint, just a little lounge, with a piano and enough room for a small kit and an upright bass and a Johnny.
It was a jazz club, basically. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I never remember going there any other time other than to see him. I mean, I can't imagine that they would have been able to do anything else in there because there was no PA system or anything,
right. Sounds like the Urban Cowboy.
Probably was. It was a nice little, proper, club. Everybody was in suits, and it was back in those days, people dressed up when they went out. You never saw anybody in street clothes
right.
at a place like that. But he kept watching the door, and in walks Homer and Jethro and Chet Atkins later on, and they stood in the back, and Johnny says, well, I see a couple of my friends have walked in here. Maybe I can get my friend Chester to come up and play my guitar. And Chet was like, no way, and my friend Homer can really play the guitar. I'll get him up here. And Homer's like, mm-mm. He said, well, I know Jethro will come up and play my guitar. And he did. Whoa. Jethro, the mandolin player, sits down and plays the most beautiful ballad you ever heard in your life on Johnny's guitar. I was like, I thought he was a mandolin
Did you know
player.
who those guys were? Did you know who Chet Atkins was?
Yes, because my mom had some records, and they were big Homer and Jethro fans because they'd seen him a lot when they lived in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. They'd gone down to Tulsa to see Homer and Jethro play a couple of times.
Okay.
And they were fans, and they were like, these guys are just masquerading as hillbillies. They're not really hillbillies. They're jazz musicians.
Right.
And it turns out my dad was right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Homer and Jethro used to drive up to King in Cincinnati from Knoxville and play sessions. And King only did, King was started by Sid Nathan, who had a record store. And he kept noticing that these white people would come in, hillbillies, and request records that he didn't have. And then the black people would come in and request records that he didn't have, poor black people. And he's like, so he started his own label. And he had a friend who had a little recording set up in his living room, and he made some records. And then he opened King, which had a recording studio, a photo studio, a pressing plant, and he could manufacture his own album covers, and
a one-stop shop.
And he also had a fleet of trucks. And his idea was, I'm going to sell records all over the Midwest. Cincinnati's like close, 8 hours away from more than half of the United States,
Yeah.
So he would send these people out, in the delivery trucks to furniture stores and drug stores.
Wow.
And that's, because when I was a kid, that was still the thing. You bought your record player at the furniture store, and, that's where they sold the records.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
Makes sense.
drugstore, you could buy records at the drugstore.
Yeah.
So I remember buying lots of records at the drugstore, like the first 4 Frank Zappa records. I got them at the drugstore.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, even that late, and the first Jimi Hendrix album at the drugstore.
Tell me about the first real instrument. So you had a nylon string that was sort of clunking around the house.
Yeah. It was,
when you first got your first legit.
Well, that was
axe.
a Telecaster,
That was a
66.
okay.
Yeah, and we bought it at Johnny Smith Music because my dad was.
It was brand new.
Yeah, we went down to Colorado Springs. Johnny was the only guy in the country who had a Gibson dealership and a Fender dealership under one roof. It was unheard of. It was, that never happened.
Really? Because they were just competitors.
Yeah, that's why Gibson bought Epiphones so they could have a different brand on their headstock.
Yeah.
And that way they could get Epiphone into places that, legally weren't like, well, I don't know if it was legal, but there was some kind of thing. You couldn't go buy Fender guitars at a Gibson store, and you couldn't get Gibson guitars at a Fender store. But Johnny had them both. And so we went down there, and my dad had befriended this guy who had a local rock band who gave me lessons, and I was going to buy a Jaguar. And I had a little record player in my room where he would come and give me lessons at the house, and my dad would pay him, and I learned a lot from him.
Cool.
He taught me how to play Johnny's arrangement of Misty, only he taught it to me in E as opposed to E flat.
Okay.
Now I can play an E flat. But I told him, I had a paper route, and I was like, I saved enough money, I'm going to buy a Jaguar. He says, don't get a Jaguar. And I had Having a Rave Up with the Yardbirds album sitting there.
Yeah.
And he points, I didn't know Jeff Beck's name because it's not on the record. You know?
Okay.
It's not on the cover. And he just points to Jeff Beck. He says, that's the guy that's playing all the guitar stuff.
And that's a Telly.
And if you want to sound like that guy, you're never going to get it on a Jaguar.
Say no more.
You know, and I was like, but the Jaguar is so cool looking. He says, yeah, but...
Was anyone playing a Jaguar that you'd seen that you thought...
Yeah.
Like who was playing Jaguars?
Well, you know, like maybe, I don't know. I guess I'd seen a couple of local rock bands play down at the park, you know, like on a Saturday night.
They're cool looking.
They look great. To me, that just like, that's it, man.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had one that his grandmother bought for him, and he never, ever played it. And he let me borrow it for several months before I got my own electric guitar. And I thought it was just so cool. You know,
yeah.
Like, look at that thing, man.
So was a Telly, by 66, a Telly was probably considered to be slightly old-fashioned and clunky or something. Well,
I thought it was like, you know, looks like the Army issue, you know. You know, I was like, what is that thing? You know, but, you know, it was only a couple of months after I got it that I realized, you know, I had the first Paul Butterfield album. There was Mike Bloomfield playing the same guitar. You know, I was like, that's the guy that's playing all that wicked guitar. And he's, right. I did you know.
Yeah.
Denny was right. I got the right guitar, you know.
What about an amp? Did you have an amp at the same time?
No, I didn't. There was a little, on our block, there was some guys that were older than me. When I was 13, they knocked on my door, a gang of kids that were all older than me, and they said, hey, you're a pretty good guitar player. We're starting a band. You want to be in the band? And, you know, they were 3 years older than me. You know, I'm a little kid, and they're, you know, like.
That's exciting.
You know. And so we started rehearsing, and the guitar player had a Harmony, double pickup solid body, and a little Supro amp.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and the bass player had a Kimberly bass and an Audition amplifier. So we plugged the vocal mic into his other channel. Yeah. And then me and the other guitar player played through the Supro.
They were kind of meant to do that in the original.
The kid across the street had a drum set, and the kid next door to him could play it. But the kid that had the drum set couldn't really play as good as the kid that didn't have a drum set. So we borrowed that guy's drums, and we had a band, you know. Wow. And that band stayed together for about 4 years, and we got really good.
Could you get the sound that you were kind of going for out of plugging into channel 2 of
you know, at that time,
Supro or whatever?
Yeah, it was good enough for us. Yeah. You know, when we made do, we were making a pretty good racket. You know, we were playing stuff like Gloria and Satisfaction, and we couldn't do Beatles songs because that's too hard. Okay. The singing's too difficult. You know, we couldn't do that kind of thing. It's like, let's not do that. It sounds terrible. But we could play Rolling Stones songs, you know.
Do you remember what you paid for a 66 Telly in 66?
Well, because my father knew Johnny, he gave us a deal. I think it was less than $200 with the case. And it still had back in those days, there was brown paper wrapped around the neck and sealed, and we unsealed it. You know, like he brought it out from the back, and, you know, he said, I got a Telecaster right here, you know. Wow. It's never been opened. Okay, you know, and I pulled it out. And
you don't still have it, do you?
No, it got stolen.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and then I finally got a twin later on.
Oh, a twin? Wow, okay.
Because we progressed into the loud music era. Yeah. Because, you know, by 67, we were, you know, things were blown wide open. You know, and Boulder was the place. You know, that was where it was
more than Denver.
Denver had a really big hippie scene until 68, and the cops like really brutalized all the hippies, and they all went to Boulder. But Boulder was cool.
Okay.
The Denver police force was not nice.
And the Boulder scene, like, did it have a bunch of clubs and places to play? Yeah,
there was the Astronauts were from there. Uh-huh. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with the Astronauts.
I don't know them.
Oh, well, they made a surf record called Surfing with the Astronauts on RCA that was you really ought to listen to.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, the first cut will knock you out. It's really good. And then all the records after that were they were kind of a frat kind of band, but they were really good. They had 4 blonde dual showmans, And
wicked. That's a nice front line.
2 blonde Jaguars, a blonde jazz bass, and the lead guitar player played a blonde jazz master.
That's a look.
Rich Fifield. He was really good. Great player.
Wow.
And they were a good band. They played a place called Talagi's in Boulder, which is a 3-2 beer joint, and where all the college kids went.
So you were playing mostly like cover tunes.
Oh, yeah. We played some surf tunes initially, but that by 1967, it was too square to play surf tunes.
Really?
The music really changed.
But you'd gotten your fingers around all those tunes, like all the instrumentals, and you were into all that stuff.
Not completely, but I think.
Were you still taking lessons?
Yeah, I took lessons from quite a few people, but never stuck with anybody really. And if you jump forward to, I guess Bill and I think it was 1972 when I studied with him. My favorite music store was just get on the city bus and.
This is in Denver or Boulder?
Yeah, Denver. And it was a place down in Inglewood called Melody Music.
Yeah.
And right off South Broadway. And I used to go in there all the time. They were a Gibson dealership, and we drove the people crazy in there because we'd be in there all the time, picking up L5s and Les Pauls and whatever, actually it wasn't until 1968 I got a Les Paul from that store. It was they had just reissued the standard with a stop tail and a Tune-o-matic and 2 P90s, and then they also reissued the custom, but it had the little frets and the two humbuckers.
Yeah,
but I got the standard. Yeah.
So you went from a Tele to a Les Paul, and so tell me the Bill Frisell story, because
that was 1972.
Bill told the story about teaching you on his episode.
Oh yeah? Well, I walked into Melody Music, and there was this hippie sitting over in the corner playing some wicked jazz guitar, and I'm like, Gordon Close was the guy that was running the place at the time. I said, Gordon, who is that guy? And he's really good. And Gordon says, oh, that's my new guitar instructor, Bill Frisell. I said, well, sign me up. I want to take lessons from him. And I didn't even talk to him that day. I was too shy to go up and speak to him.
Was he playing like Bill Frisell at that point?
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no change. It's crazy when I see him play now. It's like
being in that store.
It's his fingers and the way he plays hasn't changed at all. He's much broader musically, but his basic skills were pretty much all there. And I think he'd been studying with Jim Hall.
He had, yeah, and, that's right.
And I know I studied with him for like at least 2 or 3 months.
Really?
And once a week, and he taught me a lot.
What kind of thing? Like, was he teaching you?
Mostly theory and how to negotiate a tune. And he was the guy that told me, man, you don't got to play the root.
Right.
People's ears fill that in.
Yeah.
You don't bother playing all the notes in the chord. Play the third and the sixth, or the third and the seventh, or maybe the ninth. Add that as your third note, but don't worry about the root and the fifth, man. That's maybe if it's part of the melody, yeah, but you don't need that, And so that really opened up my brain about that kind of felt like the shackles have been taken off.
Right. Did you see yourself as becoming a jazz guitarist at that point?
No, I was a jazz fan.
Yeah.
But I did not see myself going in that direction. Like that just seemed too stuffy for me.
Right.
I have a very, most people probably think it's too wide taste in music. I listen to shit that nobody listens to.
So do I.
I listen to shit
I can relate.
that none of my friends would ever listen to.
Yeah.
Including the people I work with. They're like, what? Why do you listen to that? I was like, well, why don't you?
Yeah.
So I never looked at music as being just one style, you know. And I wasn't about to be just a jazz player. I saw those guys that were doing that. They were a little bit older than me, and I was like, this is boring. You know, that guy's not doing anything. You know, Bill wasn't boring.
Was Bill playing in, like, did he have a Bill Frisell trio or anything going? Where he was just sort of a loner at that point?
No, he was kind of just floating around. There was another guy that we were both fans of named Mike Miller. You ever heard him?
No.
Oh, look him up. He just passed away.
Colorado guy.
Yeah, but he went to L.A. Check him out.
What was his deal?
I don't know. But Bill and I were like, when I talked to him, I said, I saw Mike play the gig. He goes, Mike. He said, I was over at his house one day. He's playing along. The TV was on. He played along with every commercial and every TV theme. And he said, there's no end to it. And Mike was just like this. I think he was from South Dakota and played upright bass in his father's jazz band or something like that. And he had a blonde 175 that he played through a Ampeg B15. And he was playing with the Fowler brothers. Ed Fowler was the bass player, Tom Fowler's little brother, and Walt Fowler and Bruce Fowler. They had a pretty funky little band. And I used to go see him play with the Fowler brothers, and they were ripping stuff, man. It was
really?
Like, and Mike was just like, they'd all look at him like, oh, geez. You know, they'd all shake their heads when he played because he didn't play like anybody else.
But he had a jazz background.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had chops up, but very unorthodox in some ways, to my thinking at that time. But man, he was free.
That's
always.
Amazing to see, and like really helpful as a young musician too, to see somebody like that.
He had so much. His touch was just, and he was just having fun. He was just trying to make people laugh and stuff when he played. He didn't take it seriously, you know.
Crazy.
But look up his YouTube instruction stuff. Oh my God.
Oh, he's got some instructional stuff.
Well, stuff where he'll say, you know, you talk about music and play, and you're like, oh yeah, Mike Miller, man. Okay. I never got to know him.
He was older than you.
Yeah, pretty much everybody was, you know, that I was hanging around with. I was always the young guy. But there were so many good players, and I got hired to play in all kinds of different bands, you know, and
mostly like around Denver, Boulder area.
Yeah,
you weren't touring or anything like that.
No, I didn't want to do that. My friends, once it got to be like 1970, 1971, I was in several rock and roll bands, and those guys got into the Holiday Inn circuit, you know, where you play top 40 music.
So that was a circuit?
Yeah. Big time in the Midwest and out West. So they would, we're playing in, you know, Laramie for 3 weeks at this Holiday Inn. Then we're going to, Colorado Springs to play for a month. And then we're going to Grand Island, Nebraska to play for a month. I just thought, oh my God, that sounds like being in prison. Because they had to play top 40 music, which I hated. You know, by 70, it was over. You know, it was like, you know, you turn on. It was like what Bobby Field refers to as dead teenager in hell music. Says that's what they make teenagers listen to in hell. And you know, it's like, I don't want to play that shit, man. That's awful. You know? It's like I had no interest in playing what was popular at the time. You know, I got hooked into the Grateful Dead, and when I got their first album, the first 3 Grateful Dead albums, I saw the Dead 6 or 7 times between late '67 and 1970.
Oh my God!
So I never saw them without Pigpen.
Whoa!
I've never seen the Grateful Dead without Pigpen.
Tell me about your impressions of Jerry then. At that point, he was ripping, man.
He and Billy and Mickey were on fire.
That whole era of Dead is like
just, you know, he was. I saw him play a Gold Top Les Paul one time, but then after that he was playing the SG. I never saw him play the Strat live, and so they were ripping.
None of those fancy
hard.
pants guitars. It was always like
man, he was just. They were so great, and they were. You know, they you know, and now the Grateful Dead, and you know. They come on stage and start smoking cigarettes and telling bad jokes and tuning up and laughing and telling, you know, just like messing with the audience. And then, you know, they're tuning up and you guys are, you know, tuning their drums, you know, for like 10 minutes.
Really?
And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, they're playing a song now. You know, and then they play for like an hour and then they take a break and stand around and smoke cigarettes and and talk with each other, and you'd see them huddling, and Bob Weir would tell terrible jokes, and they'd be, harassing the audience, and the audience would be yelling shit at them, and then they'd play another hour.
Wow.
And it was always different. Yeah. I could tell you some great stories about that. Boulder was, you could get unlimited supply of Alf Slee's Orange Sunshine. Yeah, so that was
at the shows in particular, or just like
one
anytime?
night we went to a show in Colorado Springs, west of Colorado Springs, in a rodeo barn, and there was a Tommy Bolin's band. Zephyr was one of the opening acts, and
wow.
My little band used to open for them, and I became sort of friends with him, and he showed me some cool stuff. He was a jazzy guy,
Was he from there, around there?
No, he was from South Dakota, and he had come to Denver up to Boulder when he was like 17, and he was immediately the biggest star in the scene of guitar players in that area in Denver and Boulder. Mm-hmm. He was the man, but he's a nice guy, man, such a sweet guy. He'd show me stuff backstage,
Whoa.
He'd try to watch this, because he incorporated jazz into his playing.
He sure did.
He had some stuff going on.
So did that influence your playing at all, or was
I'm
that
sure
more
it influenced everything.
Yeah.
Couldn't help it. I was young. I was like 16,
Yeah, that's young to be doing lots of acid.
Well, I was actually 15 when I started. But, there was a lot of weed out there too, I mean, even the sheriff smoked weed. I mean,
really?
I remember we get stopped and, is this your guys' weed? Whose is this? Come on, you guys be careful.
Okay.
Never got arrested for it.
What about acid? Where would you get acid in those days? Like it was just everywhere?
Well, that one show I went to in Colorado Springs, west of Springs, we got there at 9, and there was hay bales and stuff, and probably not more than 200 people, maybe 3 at the most. But there was a refreshment stand, and there's this guy sitting behind the refreshment stand. There's a cup on this side for 35 cents, and then the same size over here, the same stuff for $3.50. And he's just like poker face looking at us like, when we like digging in our pockets. We'll take the 3, and then sat through the first expensive
one.
Yeah, and sat through the first 2 opening acts. And by the time the Dead came on, they played till like the sun was starting to come up.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
The last 45 minutes was them doing the feedback thing.
Holy shit.
Just making noise.
This is like 69?
Yes.
Okay. Man.
Yeah, it was great. So, I had that going for me. And, plus I was a huge, fan of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix. I saw.
Do you see Hendrix?
3 times, yeah.
Whoa, what years?
What's that?
What years would you have seen Hendrix?
I guess it would have been late 67 or early 68, and then again in the summer of 68, and then the summer of 69.
Was that experience?
No, I saw Noel's last gig. It was the third time I saw him. No one knew it. Noel didn't know it.
I bet.
But I've read since that Denver was the Denver Summer Pop Festival in 1969 was his last gig.
Whoa. Crazy.
Yeah. And it was great. It was the best show
Was it?
Out of the 3. And, when I saw the first show, I'd gone to see The Doors and Captain Beefheart at the Family Dog, which was only in Denver for like 18 months, but it was great for 18 months until the cops shut it down. It was an all ages joint, and light shows on all 3 walls.
Beautiful.
I saw Cream there.
Whoa.
Saw Howlin' Wolf. Saw Janis Joplin with Big Brother when she was only singing half the tunes in the set.
Oh my God.
Sam Andrew was the lead singer, and they were like a soul band, real tight, and lots of soul harmonies and stuff, and they were really good. And who else did I see there? My best friend's older sister was going out with the guy that ran the light show, so we got in for free.
Perfect. Tell me about seeing Hendrix in those days.
Well, the first one, when we went to see the Doors, when Captain Beefheart was done, they were clearing the stage and putting up the Doors gear, and that was one at that time. That was the first place I'd ever seen a full PA system, a real PA system. When I saw the Stones.
Oh, because most bands would have just been playing through their amps and
stuff. When I saw the Stones in '65, they played at the Auditorium Arena, and there were 2 microphones on stage, and they were through the announcer's horns.
Crazy.
The boxing arena horns, in this corner, because it was in the round. And there was 3 amps, no mics on the drums, 3 guitar amps, a drum set, and 2 microphones, one for Mick Jagger and one for whoever wanted to go up and sing harmony. Sometimes Bill and Keith or Brian would blow his harmonica into that other. Yeah.
So all bands in those days would just have to bring big-ass amps to fill if they're playing.
They were probably I think they had Gibson amps that night.
Really?
Yeah, the big ones.
Okay.
The big giant ones that were supposed to compete with the Dual Showman, but I don't think they used those very long.
So the Dual Showman, that was kind of the ideal amp, I guess, for that situation.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a twin,
Yeah. But a Showman probably had more juice than a twin, or?
No, the same head, same wattage.
Okay.
It just had a bigger cabinet. But Jerry always used, those 2 twins, and then he wasn't using the speakers in there. I don't think he was using.
He had a cabinet.
Twin. There was 2 cabinets underneath the twins.
Yeah.
With JBL speakers.
And so Hendrix rolled in, and he was playing.
The first time I saw him, he was playing Sun.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the second time he had the Marshalls, and Noel was still playing the Sun gear. And then the third time they were all playing Marshalls. I was a gearhead even then.
Yeah,
and all 3 times I was able to try and look at his pedals.
So you were up close.
No, but I could, close enough to I could tell. That's a round pedal, and a wah-wah pedal.
Was it as mind-boggling as we are all led to believe?
Back to my story about the Doors thing. So between the sets, the DJ at the Family Dog was playing records through the big sound system, and he would announce stuff, here's a cut off the new Jimi Hendrix record, and he puts on Foxy Lady, and my friend and I were like, what the fuck are we hearing? What is this? And so the next day, I rode my bike up to the shopping center, and went to the drugstore. They didn't have the record. I went up to J.C. Penney's, and there it was, Are You Experienced?
Whoa.
Staring me in the face. And I bought it, got on my bike, went home, and I'm looking at it. And, I had never read anything about him because there was no rock and roll magazines that would cover Jimi Hendrix kind of music, It was before Rolling Stone existed. And so I'm looking at the cover, and I listened to the record, and it's like, well, the black guy's the singer. He must be the bass player. One of these guys is the drummer, and one's the bass, one's the guitar player.
So you didn't even know which one was Jimi Hendrix?
Well, obviously it was him because he was the lead singer. The black guy's the singer because he could tell he was a black guy by listening to him sing. But I didn't know he played guitar. So we, like a week later, he was coming to the Regis Fieldhouse. And so we bought tickets and went, and he walks out. First of all, the soft machine opened, which blew our minds.
Really?
Just ripping, Mike Retledge, what a player. I mean, just a trio, but his organ playing was just monstrous, and playing all that advanced stuff that they played. They didn't play normal music at all. They were jazz guys, from Canterbury, England, artists, guys that read poetry and, listened to, 50s avant-garde jazz, they knew all of it.
Heady.
They were just so good. And found out later that it was one of Jimmy's favorite bands.
Okay.
He liked Procol Harum, and he liked the Soft Machine. He took the Soft Machine on that tour and the next tour, too.
Wow.
They were his opening band, which was hard to fathom now. If the Soft Machine played that set here, that everybody go, what is this? What is this? People still wouldn't understand it. It was so good.
Were they known at the time?
No.
They were totally unknown.
They were known in England, but only on the Canterbury scene, the Pink Floyd, and the early Pink Floyd was Syd Barrett, the first album, and they were part of that scene, but they were way ahead of everybody else. Robert Wyatt was the singer, the drummer. He was a jazz drummer, and Mike Retledge played keyboards, and at the time, Kevin Ayers was still playing bass, but they really took off when Kevin quit, and they got Hugh Hopper on bass. The second album is the greatest. But, they lasted for many years. Alan Holdsworth played with them for a while.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, when they became more of an instrumental band.
So they play.
Yeah, and then Hendrix comes on, and he's playing an upside-down Strat, left-handed. And I'm like, oh, so he's the guitar player. And they go into this little shuffle, like Up From the Skies.
Yep.
Like that kind of thing, only it's an instrumental. And he's got his wah-wah player on, and he's playing real quiet, and Mitch is playing brushes, and the bass player is playing quietly, and they do this little instrumental.
Really?
And
I don't think I've ever heard them do something like that.
Crowd kind of claps, and then the show begins. He turns up his guitar, and all hell breaks up.
So it's like a little teaser.
Yeah, it's like them just sound checking, just like with a shuffle. Just like, I don't even know if it was a song. It was just a little groove thing, And it probably was one of Jimmy's little pieces that he worked on years before or something. Who knows? But then they did the show, and they turned up, and that sound of that guitar is just like, whoa. And unfortunately, the PA system was a Vox PA system.
And it just couldn't keep up.
You could hear him a little bit, but not like you should have been able to. But it didn't matter.
What a mind blower.
And my friend's mom had a Strat, which we always thought, well, that's a guitar that Al Jardine plays in the Beach Boys, man.
Totally uncool.
That's a rhythm guitar. That's like, I didn't know,
That'll change your mind.
I didn't know about Johnny Guitar Watson and Curtis Mayfield yet, And I hadn't thought of the Strat, Ike Turner. I didn't thought of it like that.
Right. Hubert Sumlin.
And when I saw Hubert, he played
I guess he didn't always play a Strat.
Those guys have more guitars than anybody.
Really?
Every picture you see of those guys, they have a different guitar. But the night I saw him, he had I think it was a Gretsch Nashville double cutaway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, playing through a concert, Fender Brown concert on a folding chair.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you see a lot of those kind of guys, like that generation of blues players as well?
Not too many.
Okay.
That was the first one I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I was already a fan, and it was great.
I bet.
It's the same band that's in the Howlin' Wolf movie when they're in that club and Howlin' Wolf was sitting down. Yep. That band.
So you saw Howlin' Wolf?
That very band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That very band, blew my mind.
I bet.
Saw them at the same hippie club where I saw those other places.
Nice.
All those other guys. And
where does your band Johnny 3 fit into this?
Oh, well, by the time I realized I didn't want to play rock and roll with my friends unless it was, cool music, I didn't want to go play on the straight circuit.
So that had that ship had sailed kind of. You're like, I'm not into that. I want to just
so I started just playing in a lot of different bands, a lot of different kinds of bands. And I was trying to become a better guitar player during the day and had a pretty open mind about what I didn't really copy rock and roll records, and I never sat down and tried to work out a Jimi Hendrix song note for note or anything like that. I didn't really do that so much, but I try and play jazz tunes, my dad's stuff, because I just want to get good, I want to be musical or whatever, So I was pretty open-minded. And so I played with a lot of really odd kind of bands and stuff and didn't make very much money. And when I was 18, my parents decided that they needed to go into business with their friend, and they moved to middle of Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere. And I wasn't about to do that because I was so into the local music scene and everything. I was like, I can't do that, So I just stayed in town. And then I realized, I got to make some money. So I was playing in some groups. And what happened to me was there was a little place. I was staying over at my grandma's house in Littleton. And down the street, there was this little bar called the Oasis Lounge. It was like a working man's place, And so one day I'm walking to see my pal at night, and I'm walking by the Oasis, and I heard the most incredible guitar playing coming out of there. I'm like, whoa. So I had a fake ID. And so I walked in, and I went over and sat next to the bandstand. It was a Dewey Knight and the Countrymen. And it was like this guy sitting on a stool playing a Super 400 and just playing everything like Merle Travis and, country music. But he was really advanced, just playing the shit out of it. And they had a steel player, and this guy, Dewey, was a really good singer. He was like a baritone singer. truck driving songs, and he would sing real low, and he was really funny. And they took a break, and he comes over and says, "Son, what are you doing in here?" He said, "You're a musician, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You better move a little closer to the stage because you're about to get your ass kicked.
Really?
Looking the way you look in here. You watch what you know." I'd never been in a place like that. I was like, "Whoa, yeah," So I went down there a couple of times, and like third time I went in there, he invited me up to play, and he got my number, and so he called me for a couple of gigs. And
how did that go?
Well, I didn't really know much about it, but I was good enough to make it through, kind of fight my way through it, and so I started kind of, I go down, try and find the records, that where those songs came from, because they were playing like, Hank Williams and Ray Price, a little bit of Merle Haggard, but a little bit of Buck Owens, but probably more like late 50s stuff and early 60s stuff, And he'd had a record that he made in Nashville, a truck driving record called "Hauling My Last Load."
Okay.
And I think it charted. He was, he knew a lot of people in Nashville. He was from Arkansas, and he was quite the entertainer and quite the character too. He's really magnetic kind of personality.
So had you heard that kind of guitar playing before?
Yeah, my mom would let me listen to country music in the car on KLAK, which went off the air when the sun went down.
Okay.
It came on the air when the sun came up and went off the air when the sun went down. I think there was only one disc jockey, or maybe two. And the first guy that really blew my mind was Ernest Tubb. I was like, "What the hell is this? I love this guy," and I'd be turning it up and listening. And occasionally on Saturday afternoons, they would have they would show some of those half-hour shows that came out of Nashville, the Bill Anderson show. And I was like, when I saw Bill Anderson on TV, I was like, "This guy is not right. What is with this guy?" Whispering Bill, So I was like, "Is this real?"
Still playing the Opry, to this day.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, "What in the world?" But he had a lot of cool guests on there, and occasionally there'd be a badass guitar player taking a quick little. And I was like, "Wow, this is alien to me." But through those guys, I got to know a lot of the people on the country circuit, and they didn't travel. They just worked 6 nights a week in Denver at these clubs over on West 44th Street.
So there were bands that could just stay in town and make a living.
And so I started subbing for those guys, and I get paid $40 a night, which was pretty good.
It's decent.
Back in early 70s, in the mid 70s. And I always kind of held on to that whole thing. And I lived 2 lives, basically. I was working that scene, and then I was also playing with my friends, and we had an avant-garde jazz band. Cool. And we could play once a week at this gay bar down on Broadway. It had jazz night in the front, and then there was a disco in the back. Okay. But they would have straight jazz guys go in there and play. And it was the little lounge in the front was nice. It has a nice bar, and they served businessmen's lunch, that didn't know it was a gay bar, during the day. And then on Sundays, they had a lot of good jazz bands playing. This was like in the Return to Forever era. Now, we didn't do any of that stuff, but we were playing like Carla Bley tunes.
So the more you were pretty out there.
And we were learning how to do that kind of thing. We were more interested in that end of it, and when the first Weather Report album came out, we were huge fans, all that kind of stuff. That was fun to play in that band, but that was the only gig we really ever could get, because we were not a typical lounge band.
Right.
We didn't do standards. We were playing that early pre-fusion sort of forward-thinking stuff that was out, We're hip to a lot of different kind of things, My dad had brought home a George Benson instrumental record. This is before George ever started singing,
That'll blow your mind.
Because he used to sing when he was a kid. And then he played for Brother Jack McDuff. Okay. Jack McDuff's band. That was his first real, good national gig, And he played a Les Paul, standing up, But when my dad brought home this record, and he was playing like an L5 or something, and he sat on a stool, But it was really scrappy, He was really playing some stuff, It was an instrumental record. Like, this guy's good. And then it blew my mind when he came out with all those hits. like on Broadway and all this stuff. He's like,
Reason.
Man, yeah, George is a good player and a good singer. You know, I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, he's incredible. So you're kind of like involved as much as you can be in a jazz scene.
Yeah.
But then moonlighting as like a full-on country guitar player.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool.
And I wasn't really that into the real mainstream jazz scene. I didn't really go there very much. I got hired in this one band that was kind of played those places, but I was only in that band for a very short amount of time because it wasn't really my thing. It was too square. And it wasn't.
So were you doing like six nights a week with these country bands?
Sometimes, yeah. And then there was another guy who had a really successful country rock band. And I played in his band because he paid me a lot of money. And he always had a line around the club. On Tuesday night, there'd be a line to get in.
So you were playing like country gig covers.
Yeah, but his wasn't. He was playing a strange mix. He was playing Buddy Holly tunes and Jimmy Buffett tunes, early Jimmy Buffett tunes, and Willie Nelson tunes and Waylon, that kind of stuff. He mixed it all up, but he was a really fantastic entertainer and good guitar player. And he's one of those guys that could talk for 10 minutes and just destroy the crowd, just making them laugh, Yeah. He'd just get on a roll and start telling a story and just, he was a fantastic entertainer and paid really good. So I played with him for a while.
Did you find that your playing was progressing in a way that you were happy with? Because
yeah, well, in that band I was free to, I could, I had an echo unit and a fuzz pedal.
So you're getting a little freaky in there.
Yeah, I could. He'd let me loose.
Cool.
He'd say, "Yeah, take off," know. And I didn't look like I should be there. They always used to make fun of me because I always, I was into all kinds of music, and I didn't ever try to fit in with wherever I was because I didn't care.
Did you have aspirations to leave Colorado and go elsewhere? Were you thinking about moving to Nashville?
Not at that time. No, I never thought about
that scene?
I never thought about music and moving to Nashville. What happened was I was in this funk band, and that was really fun because the guys were really good players, and we played all kinds of cool stuff. And we didn't have a set. We played all kinds of different versions of stuff. We were very much just played the way we played. And the other guitar player was a really good guitar player. The drummer was great. It was just really a cool little quartet. And we would play a lot around town. And we rehearsed at this old house. And there was this crazy nut that lived next door. And he was hanging out. And he was like, "Hey, man, what do you do for fun?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, I got this band. We're playing parties. You want to play parties with us? And so that band evolved into the Johnny 3. It started as a party band, but we were pretty edgy. Yeah. And this whole punk rock thing sort of reared its ugly head. And I've been really into Dr. Feelgood.
This is like mid-70s?
Yes. When I discovered Dr. Feelgood and Wilco Johnson, I was like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
This guy's insane playing with his hand, playing rhythm and lead at the same time, and it was just like so spare and tough. They dressed up like gangsters, they didn't look like anybody else. They were from Canvey Island, which is the asshole of England, where the refineries are, where the river spills out into the channel there. And they were tough guys, and they were really good. And I got into their records, and so we started playing that stuff. And we drive people wild. Like we played a couple of gigs where the audience got so wild that there were fights and stuff.
Beautiful.
And it was like, wow.
And that band recorded a bit. Like because I heard that song "Hey Baby."
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's on YouTube. I don't think you can get it on any streaming, but it's crazy. Like the drumming is super crazy.
That was the guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was a poet, and he said, "Let's write some songs." So we started writing songs and playing them in our band, and people liked it. And there was a place called Wax Trax Records in Denver where I hung out all the time, and they had all the latest stuff from England. I was a big Roxy Music fan. I loved them. I was a big Dr. Feelgood band, fan, and they started getting like all the early punk stuff. Some of like Elvis Costello was considered to be a punk at that time.
I know, right.
Which
It's
he
funny.
was anything but a punk.
Yeah.
You know, he was a musicologist.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, his first record came out.
But you dug all that stuff too.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean that kind of energy and that punk influence, it's sort of there in your playing.
And of course, more important than anything was Frank Zappa. I had his first album when I was 12, you know, and I bought every record that came out until like 73 or 4.
I think he's an underappreciated guitar player.
Go listen to his guitar solo on Inca Roads. That song, Inca Roads.
Yeah.
The guitar solo is a live performance from a live show, even though the rest of the song is a studio thing.
Yeah,
but,
he used to do that. That's a great
yeah,
way to work.
but that solo is from a live concert, and it's
Okay.
just off the top of his head. But it's beautiful. His melodies and his playing is just staggering because he played better melodies than anybody else, man. You know, he was like playing the most amazing stuff.
There's other parts of
His content was incredible. He wasn't, you know, he was, and his facility was really good, you know. I liked those records a lot. Especially liked Weasel's "Rip My Flesh" and what was that
It's a
other
great
one?
album cover too.
Burnt Weenie Sandwich.
Yeah.
Those are great records.
Yeah, they are.
And there's a lot of live stuff spliced in with the studio stuff. But
Great guitar sounds and
like the piano intro on The Little House I Used to Live In. That's Ian Underwood on the piano.
Right.
Because he left Frank's band to study classical piano. You know, I'd say that he was as much of an influence on me as anybody. You know, because it was just so broad.
I didn't realize that. That's really interesting that you mentioned that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was my guy always. You know, I used to go watch him all the time too.
Yeah.
I saw him play a lot. Saw the Real Mothers, the original band, and they were really good. Better than I thought. They had Jim Black, but they also had Art Tripp on drums. And Art Tripp was a good drummer.
You never saw them with Lowell George?
No. I don't think he played that many shows with him.
I don't think that lasted very long.
Frank was the guy that said, "You don't belong in my band. You belong in your own band. You need to go get." And he took the bass player and started a band.
That's right, Roy Estrada.
Yeah.
You sort of got the one gig in the world that you can express those kinds of things within sort of a country music. I mean, it's not really even country music, really, but it's
pretty. In my mind, it's pretty narrow, you know.
You think?
Well, yeah.
I mean, I hear.
Let's face it, you know.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, you can get pretty freaky in that stuff, and then also
in the right places.
Yeah.
You know, I could also get fired, you know, but I chose not to. You know, I keep it within the.
But I hear all those things too when you play with the Imperial Blues Hour.
Well, that's a little more freedom.
Yeah, that's a great band too.
I enjoy that band. Yeah. It's fun. We do it for fun. You know?
That's one of my favorite bands in Nashville.
It's pure fun. There's no other. We don't have any aspirations beyond having fun. Yep. That's it. We only play what we want to play, and we have a good time doing it. And we laugh a lot on stage, and that's one of the good things, you know.
Tell me about your guitars in that era. Like, you're known kind of as a telly player, but anytime I see you're playing that black Strat these days.
Oh yeah, it's a 83 Squire.
Yeah, you're playing a Squire Strat.
Yeah, that's a good guitar. I have an 84 too. And they're both great. And then I got into those Pacific Rim Fujijin Strats. My best one is a 79 Tokai Silver Star. Yeah, it's awesome. What a great guitar. I mean, it's massively great. In the 70s, I was using a 61 Jazzmaster a lot and a 66 Strat. Those are my two guitars in the 70s.
Music Makers and Soul Shakers is a bi-weekly podcast produced at the Hen House Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find us at makersandShakerspodcast.com. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors this season. We couldn't do this without them. Larrivee Guitars, Chase Bliss Pedals, Fab Filter, Odyssey Headphones, Railtown Mastering, Isotope, and the Hen House Hang. And of course, you for listening. We'll see you next time for another episode of Music Makers and Soul Shakers.